Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my magical readathon TBR. Honestly, this is going up a little bit late, and it's because I had zero preparation for this. If you have stuck around with me through the last month, 2 months, 3 months, it's been a minute, I have been slumping pretty hard, not just in reading. Actually, honestly, not so much in reading. I've been reading just fine. It's the booktube aspect that I have kind of been slumping in. The motivation to just make videos and edit them has been rough for me. If you missed my announcement, I am actually pregnant, and that has kind of affected all of my motivation to do things that are not absolutely necessary, or like, I don't know how to describe it. But that's why videos have been a little bit sparse for me lately. Hopefully, the Magical Readathon is going to help me pick back up in that area. I do have several videos that I've pre-filmed that I just have not gotten around to editing. They were supposed to go up last month. They didn't. Hopefully they will be going up this month instead. We're gonna see. We're gonna try. Make sure that happens. But yeah, so I'm just gonna jump right into my magical readathon TBR. Just to give you guys a quick recap on my character, I have completed all of the prompts up to this point. So I've done the gearing up, I've done the novice path. The order of those is flipped. Novice Path comes first. But I did Novice Path, I did Gearing Up, which was the week-long readathon in like March. And then I did the Spring Equinox semester in April, so I finished all of those things. In order to recap all of that for you, I am in the House of the Arcane. I am going for the calling of Mage Hunter. And to fill in a little bit more about my character, I've also completed all of the prompts so that I am from an urban setting, I am from the land of Dayrune, and I am an earthling, an air earthling. So that is all of the things that I have read. Well, that encompasses all of the things that I have read so far. Also, my conduits are both a crystal and a sword. I don't really know what I want to do there, but I think that I'm going to have a sword with a crystal like in its pommel. I think that's my plan for that conduit. Also, I completed the prompt for the Pocket Dimension Guild's Legacy, which is kind of just like a bag of holding if you play D&D. So it's a bag pocket thing that you can store endless things in. And then I think that's everything. So I completed all of the exams back in April to finish the first round of qualifications for Mage Hunter, which means that now I move on to the, I don't know, they're not called the Owls anymore. The testing, I guess you could say, for the Orilium Academy Autumn Equinox. And the setup for this is the same as it was when it was previously the Owls. You have to read a specific number of prompts for each of the, I don't know, categories, I guess you could say, depending on what your calling is. So for Mage Hunter, in order to pass this second round, I have to meet the level of D for spells and incantations, the level of Q for conjuration, and the level of O for restoration. And so what this means is that there's 3 levels. There's O, there's Q, and there's D. I don't really remember exactly what those stand for, but they're like kind of grade levels, I guess you could say. So if you have to reach D, which is the highest level, it means that you have to read 3 prompts. If you reach Q, which is the middle level, you have to read 2 prompts, and if you just need an O, you just have to read that 1 prompt. Sounds super confusing. I'm going to link G's video down below because obviously she explains it way better than I ever could. She also has links to all of her Google Docs there. If any of this interests you, you've probably already heard of this from a million other people, and everybody's gotten their TBRs out way before I did. So, I mean, if you're late to the game, though, welcome. It's awesome. It's the best readathon that exists. So, I'm just gonna jump right into the prompts, and then I'll go into the books that I chose for the prompts afterwards. So the O level for spells and incantations, the first level is to learn the spell Recolor, and the prompt is to use a color wheel and pick a book matching said color. I actually already did this. I'm gonna pop the screen recording that I have over here, and you guys can watch as it lands on gray. So I had to go and find a gray book that I could put in for this prompt, because that's what the color wheel landed on. The Q level for spells and incantations is to learn the incantation Echo. This prompt is to find a book from somebody else's TBR and put that onto your TBR. The D level for spells and incantations is to learn the hex Tongue Tie, and this prompt is to annotate this book, whatever that book is, so you can really just pick anything as long as you're going to annotate that book as you're reading it. I presume that this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to write in it. Like, if you just want to use sticky notes, you can. We'll see how I feel when I get to that part, but I haven't really decided which one I'm going to annotate yet. We'll see. Next, we move on to the conjuration category, in which I needed to get a Q level, which means 2 prompts. So the O level for this is the Foundations of Necromancy, which is to read a book featuring necromancy. The Q level for this is, I think it's like to read the book Tales the Bones Tell is like the category. And the prompt for this is to read a book with a bone on the cover or the word bone in the title somewhere. And then lastly, moving on to the category of restoration, I just needed an O level, which is to learn object restoration. And the prompt for this is just to read a book that has a singular focus on one object on the cover. I may be stretching this one a little bit when I get into that later, but we'll see. I mean, G says she's okay with it, so we're just gonna go with that. How about that? Now, all in all, this totals 6 prompts for me, which hopefully should be fairly doable. I didn't really choose anything that's particularly chunky. There are additional prompts that might happen throughout the month, and these are called quests. So she drops a whole bunch of different like adventure board quests kind of things that you can complete, and if you complete that particular reading prompt or quest, you get certain guild points, which builds up to certain levels and perks. Again, go watch her video. She explains it all way better than I can. This is just supposed to be a short little TBR video. So jumping right into it, I spun the color wheel, I landed on the color gray, and the book that I chose for this is Engines of Empires by R.S. Ford. I've heard so many people raving about this book. It is gray on the cover, so that's going to count, obviously. It just sounds so interesting. And all of the reviews that I've heard have been great. It is fantasy, so I think that I'll enjoy it. I don't think that it's like super long. I have the ebook of it, so it shouldn't be too hard. The next prompt was to pick a book off of somebody else's TBR and put it onto your TBR. I watched so many magical readathon TBR videos, and the only one that I could come up with that I really wanted to read was Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I just received this in an unplugged book box. I think it was the June box, I want to say, which I am a rep for, and I did really want to read more of my book box books this year, so this will kind of count towards that yearly goal that I have for myself, and it just sounds really interesting. It's kind of like the Majesty's, like, I don't know, that's not the word I wanted. It's kind of like the Royal Spies kind of concept, but with witches in covens instead, and that just sounds awesome. The next prompt is the annotation prompt, and I think that I'm just going to give this to me as a freebie this month. As long as I pick something and I annotate it, it doesn't really matter what it is. It obviously can't be one of the ones that I'm using for a different prompt, so we'll leave that as a surprise in my wrap-up, I guess, for the end of the month, because I want to leave myself a little bit of mood reading room. Obviously, all of these books are subject to change. I mean, if you watch this channel, you know me. My TBRs are never, ever set in stone. If I can find something else that I really want to read instead that's going to fit one of these prompts, I will. But just to give myself a little bit extra space, I'm going to leave the annotation prompt blank, and we'll fill that in when we get there, I guess. But after that is the necromancy prompt, which is to read a book featuring necromancy. This is not a huge thing for me. I don't know. I couldn't really figure out anything off the top of my head. So I went to the Magical Readathon's Twitter page, where G has been posting calls for people to add like suggestions to the different prompts so that there are book suggestions and people aren't like struggling to find stuff for some of the harder prompts that there are. There's some that are way more difficult than necromancy, I promise. So a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but there were definitely some people that recommended Monstrous by Marjorie Liu, and honestly, this has been on a couple of TBRs before, but I think that I will actually get to it this time. It is a graphic novel. It's super short. This is volume 1, and I've been wanting to read it for a very long time. So hopefully I will finally get to it. Hopefully it actually does satisfy the necromancy prompt, because that would kind of be bad if it didn't, or sad. Not bad. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it, but it would just be a little bit sad if I read it and it didn't actually go towards the prompt. But yeah, so I'm going to be reading Monstrous, and I don't know, let me know down in the comments if you read this and it actually has some kind of undead or necromancy situation going on, because I would like to know that before I dive into it, but I guess I could just read it really quick anyway. The next prompt on the list is to read something that has bone in the title or a bone on the cover. John's going to be super happy about this, because I am finally putting The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker onto this TBR. It does obviously have the word bone in the title. This was really hard for me. I couldn't find anything. There were a couple of other options that I thought about that might be able to fit this prompt. For example, Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher is something that I've had my eye on that I might still replace. I haven't decided yet, just because it's considerably shorter than this book is. And if I just need something quick at the end of the month because I haven't gotten to it yet, that's probably what's going to happen. But I would like to actually get around to this. I have an ebook for it. I think I can get the audiobook from my library, so hopefully I'll be able to get to this relatively quickly. The last prompt that I have for the Magical Readathon is to read a book that has a single object on the cover. I might be stretching this just a little tiny bit, but I don't really care because technically, there is only one actual object on the cover. So it's Master of Iron by Trisha Levenseller. You guys will find out later on in this month, but I do have a vlog that is going to be around this book. I have not started it yet, but I am going to be reading it this month, and I am going to be vlogging about it. You'll see why when I post that vlog. But it has one hammer, technically, on the cover. Is a bubble an object? I'm going to say no, but this is the focal point. That's what I'm going with, because I really want to read this book, and it's the only thing that I have that technically really fits this prompt. So I'm going to be reading Master of Iron for the single object prompt. And that's everything that I had, other than the guild point, like adventure board things that I might try and fit in if I have time. With the books that I've chosen, there are some fantasies that are in there that might take me a little bit longer than others. Also, I'm still trying to read a couple of books that I didn't finish at the end of July, and I'd like to wrap those up. They can't count towards the magical readathon. But we've got 4 weeks. It's already day 2. I mean, I am filming this on August 2nd, but maybe I'll be able to catch up. 6 books in a month is not unheard of for me. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to all of these. But anyway, that is it for this video today, guys. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. Down in my description box, you will find rep codes for both Unplugged Book Box and Hello Lovely Box. And underneath that are links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram in case you guys wanted to follow me on any of those. But that's it for me today, guys. So I'll talk to you in my next one. And happy reading with the Magical Readathon. Bye!